All right. Welcome to Entmoot, first installment, first podcast episode. I'm NCJS, and bear with me a little bit. This is my first podcast I'm ever doing, and I'm a little bit inspired by a book that I'm reading called The Tao of Physics. So I'm trying to do this podcast a little bit more intuitively, kind of like stream of consciousness, so that I don't get myself confused and boggled down by definitions and statistics and abstract scientific fact and so forth. I'm trying to just use more of my observation of the world around me to share with everybody else what it is we actually think is going on in our world. I think we're a little bit blinded by the amount of scientific data that's just surrounding us at all times. I don't think that gives a fair view of what's going on. Today, just in this short little beginning to test things out a little bit, I want to talk about kind of a big subject, and maybe I'll dive more into it in another episode. Let's see. But it's kind of, I guess we can start with the American election. It's November 12th today. So it's a couple days ago that Trump was elected. And, by landslide or whatever. And it seems like people are going nuts on the other side. Like, people are going crazy. And it's a little bit of a negative energy. And I've been looking at this whole thing for a while, this kind of fight between the left and the right. And trying to figure out what exactly am I seeing here? What am I looking at? Because we can kind of like paint it through our intelligent goggles about what socio-political whatever words, but sometimes I look at it on sort of just an observational view, purely just empty my mind and look at it, and I get all kinds of pictures. And one image that I seem to see is sort of a little bit of a feminine versus masculine energy going on. Seems to be like a polarization, and seems to be that sort of a feminine move towards the left and a masculine move towards the right. And that becomes interesting to me, because if you kind of look at this whole thing almost like a divorce, you imagine a husband and wife of a certain amount of years, things have changed, all of a sudden they don't look at each other the same way. All of a sudden this unit, this forever unit that works together, don't recognize each other, and now they are moving towards being competitors / enemies / whatever. Not friendly. Sometimes it can happen friendly, but I'm just, for this example, it's one of the ugliest things. Everybody who's seen a divorce or anything, it can be so ugly because we just fight in different ways. It just becomes so dirty because there's no set rules for how men and women hurt each other, how they help each other, how they love each other. It's all just like based on trust. And when that trust is gone, things get really ugly. And I kind of look at it like that. I mean, with the Industrial Revolution, which is what I see, where women sort of took their first steps into freedom because they could walk into the workplace, all of a sudden make their own money, and didn't look back. That was sort of the beginning of the end of this marriage, in a way. That's when it began to change. And ever since then, it just looks to me like it's one long divorce. And unfortunately, like divorce, I don't see a happy ending to that in any kind of way. Or at least the ending might not be what we expect it to be. Because as it is right now in the political environment, each side really truly believes that they are correct. They believe that they are the ones who understand the moral high ground, or what needs to be done, or whatever. But what if nobody's right and everybody's right at the same time? What then? Like, how do we get through this? How do we coexist now that we don't want to coexist? I think that is the underlying theme here in the modern world. We don't want to coexist anymore. We want a divorce. Men, the right, whatever, don't want to necessarily have to listen and walk along with every weirdo emotional desire that the left has in order to fulfill themselves and see themselves and go emotionally into more depth and all kinds of weird stuff that we don't even really begin to understand. And the left, has being tasted freedom, want more of it, don't want to be limited by what men say, what the right says, what, by tradition, by logic. They don't want that, and there's no way in hell they're going to go back to that. Like, I don't see, there's no way in hell they're going to go back to that. There's another book that I read called The Art of Love, I think it was called. Author's name slips in my mind right now. But in that book, he mentions that men and women love in different ways. And women, or let's say the mother way of loving, is an unconditional love. In other words, you are loved because you are. You don't need to do anything else than that. Gay, trans, whatever you're doing, it's just another essence of who you are. It's just another reason to get to know you, to love you, to accept you. It just makes you more interesting. The father way of loving is a love that needs to be earned. It doesn't come automatically. It comes when you impress or make proud your father. He loves you. He learns to love you. That's really interesting. That's like a very core difference in these situations. And of course, that's going to push everybody who's having a hard time, who feels they're different, who don't want to earn love. It's going to push them towards the left. They want to just be loved, whatever. I was born a victim. I can't do anything right. Oh, I love you anyways. That is really annoying and insulting for the father in everybody on the right-hand side. Who is this loser who has not earned any respect? How can they come in and take so much of the attention and the energy and the money that we have here to share? They haven't deserved it yet. They don't deserve it. Right there, you have a fundamental difference. And I honestly don't see any way of bypassing these things as we understand each other right now. And most likely socially, as the roles of men and women change, but also just even in a marriage, as a divorce happens, there's certain things that are going to pass. You can't really stop it. It's going to hurt, and there's going to be some kind of destruction, and there's going to be some rebirth after that as well. But there's also a redefinition, and there has to be some redefinition about how we communicate, how we respect each other, how we need each other, and what our relationship's going to be after the fact, but before we can begin to solve anything. And I think that if one thinks in that simplistic way to start off with, and sort of reflects that up upon that image, upon all what we're seeing politically going on, even with at least in the Western world, politically, everything that we're seeing and all the struggles that are going on, I think that it can give you kind of a standing point to sort of understand what we're seeing, and maybe have a little bit of empathy. From the women, from the left's point of view, have a little bit of empathy for the fact that it is kind of going against the grain of what a man is to not expect somebody to have to earn their keep and earn their respect. It's what makes us who we are. We need that way of looking at things. Have a little empathy that we're never going to be able to just get on the bandwagon of just love and acceptance all the way around, no matter who the hell you are. And as men on the right, have a little bit of empathy for the fact that this is extremely core to how women feel safe and how they love and how they dare even to come out into the world, that they feel like they deserve love and affection and respect no matter who the hell they are and what they've done. That they don't have to prove themselves, that they don't have to do things in a certain way, that they don't need to follow tradition. And if we can have a little bit of empathy from the beginning, then maybe at some point we can find some common ground. But it's going to get ugly before it gets better. That's my 100% opinion. It's going to get ugly in the Middle East. It's going to get ugly between the East and the West. It's going to get ugly the whole way around because there's a massive change going on. Everybody feels it. But I guess there's a lot of different analysis about why it's happening. And I'm just analyzing it completely layman from an intuitive point of view. I'm a nobody in any kind of intellectual field, but that doesn't mean that I don't see. And I hope that everybody else out there can allow themselves to see a little bit too. Maybe we can find a way out of it. That was my first podcast. Thanks for joining me, and maybe I'll see you another time. Goodbye.